Hello, this is Dr. Sara Smith, and I have a beautiful guest with me today, one of my longtime clients and very, very good friends, Cinzia. And hello,
Hello.
I'm so glad you're here. Normally I get to hear that. Hello. Love it. And Cinzia has been kind enough to come on and really share about her experience, getting into not necessarily some of the deeply personal things that we've done in our private sessions together, but definitely tapping into, I'm curious, and that's what we're going to dive in today, kind of why she came, what was the purpose, what really has unfolded in her life. Because as a doctor of physical therapy who specializes in getting to the root cause of physical symptoms, which really are usually mental and spiritual blockages that we have, I think it's really important because a lot of those show up in our career, they show up in our relationships, they show up in our finances, they show up in our health and our wellness, and they may manifest themselves as physical symptoms. So, Cinzia, what if you can think like, oh my goodness, it was back in 2018, right? I think it
Yes.
was. Yeah, it was. Um, if you can like dig back in your memory, what was it that inspired you? Kind of tell us the story of like how you found out about me and how you decided like, I'll give this a try.
My pleasure. I do have to say, as you know me, I do like to joke around. And so I would like to say that this is the reason I wanted to work with you. So that I really can be the person that my dog thinks I am.
Share the quote just in case somebody's like listening to the audio of this.
Okay. So my coffee mug says, and this was just gifted to me over the holidays. And I
Oh.
just thought, I was like, this is so correct. It says, my goal in life is to become the person my dog already thinks that I am.
That's so fantastic. I love that. That's why you came.
Exactly why I came. While I do try to prove myself as an individual, the reason that I first chose to work with Dr. Sara Smith is I was at a point professionally where culturally and on paper, it looked like I had made it in my career. I made a very, very healthy salary. I had a prestigious job title. I was traveling all over the world, which, as much as that can sound sexy, it's really not. um, in fact, I was working for a company that I believed wholeheartedly in what they were doing. It was a tech company. I loved most of my coworkers. And I was really good at what I was doing. So what was wrong? I was
Mm,
miserable. And I think a lot of that stemmed from the career choices I had made over 15 years were never about my authenticity. They were about the expectation of what's right, at least culturally, religiously, somewhat, and familially. That had driven me there, and fiscally, the responsibility of taking care of my college loans and my house and my car. And I just worked to take care of the things that you need to, but there was never any joy in the work that I did, despite being very successful. And I know helping people in my career. And I think I worked myself to the point where I was so utterly depleted that I couldn't make myself go through the motions anymore. In fact, I got to the point where I think twice I called out sick because I woke up crying and couldn't put myself together. And if you know me, like I have worked through walking pneumonia, the swine flu, like that's not me.
mm,
So I was looking for a career coach. A mutual friend of Dr. Sara Smith and I brought her up in conversation. And literally my thought was, oh, can I get in contact with her? Maybe I mean, she's a coach, but maybe she'll know a career coach. So we got connected. And we had such an impactful first conversation that though I don't think, Sarah, you'd say career is necessarily like your only focus, it was very clear that I think there would be fruit from us working together.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to work with this woman. I'm going to see where it went. And interesting things happened. Good, interesting things happened.
What do you think it was that, like, because when I think back of that first session, and this happens in a lot of first sessions that I do, I will challenge people a lot of times to really get into their body. What are you feeling? What does the emotion physically show up as? And kind of that inner navigator came up. And there, like you said, there was a lot of pushing, forcing, doing, and into the overdoing category, into the overemphasizing category that was showing up for you. So is there anything that you recall being like, yeah, because very good point. I mean, I've never labeled myself as technically a career coach, but interestingly enough, what I have consistently found is that it's when people are in transitions. And so that may be relationships, that may be wellness wise, that may be career wise, retirement wise. I love transitions. I love getting into the meat of that. What do you think kind of allowed you to take that leap to be like, I'm gonna risk it all on this girl that's a coach?
Well, in part, my personality and probably why I was in sales and consulting is that I think I'm a natural connector, and it's very quickly I can feel like if I'm connecting, for lack of a better word,
Yeah.
with somebody. So
Yes.
there definitely was that element there, that we had this instant like chemistry, which to me belays the ability to have a foundation of trust. And so if you're going to get into something like, hey, I have this supposedly amazing career and I don't want it anymore, like you have to be able to share authentically with someone if you're expecting to get some kind of different result or to make a change. And let's be honest, we all know, as much as we say we want change, change is very difficult for most of us. So I think there was that element. And I've been through and worked through enough like really difficult things in my life that I know at some point you're going to have to like sludge through stuff, and it's
Yeah.
going to be more than the easy, oh, I want to be this when I grow up. So the fact that
Amen.
I knew that you weren't going to take this at some kind of surface cursory level, I'm like, this makes sense. We will get somewhere because we're looking at the holistic person, the physical, the emotional, the spiritual, to get me to a place that feels like I'm rooted, I'm grounded here. This makes
Yeah.
sense as a path.
Yeah. So you were looking for authenticity, right? But it required trust, very specific trust, and being authentic with one of the most kind of vulnerable things at the time really going on with you, which was saying, I climbed this mountain and the mountain looks really, really good from the outside. And I do love the mountain, but the mountain isn't exactly fitting anymore into the authentic, whole me.
I like that analogy. It's true. And
Yeah.
so many of us get caught in that in various ways in our life, where we think that some far off destination, achievement, goal is going to fulfill us. And then you get there and you're like, wait a second, who pulled the carpet out from underneath me? I'm still not happy. And so, like,
Yeah.
when you get to that point and you feel like, I got to go skydiving off of this mountain, like, you really need to trust that someone has your back in that, or else you feel like a crazy person, because all of those pressures are still chirping in your ear, be it family, friends, culture, etc.
Oh,
um,
yeah.
so it's invaluable to have trust and know that someone's going to help guide you in a way that makes you feel safe, and not crazy. Authentic.
It's really huge. I mean, I will say, and I've shared this with you, while we're not recording too, but I felt that so much. I mean, there's every one of us has something going on in our life that's just very raw to talk about, very triggering. And usually what we do is we kind of run or just go to family members or friends or coworkers, and they can't solve what it is anyway, because actually it's an internal issue. We have to go internal, yet we usually need a guide to go there safely and into those raw spots to mine out the gold that's sitting there all along. um can I share? Do you mind if I share your mantras? Because one of the things that I started doing when I got into this was I it was kind of like this intuitive download. Like I would get you to a place where it's like, okay, we know what we're feeling, we know the words, we know what we're looking for, and then I like tie it into a bow with this cool mantra. Would you be okay if I shared that? And you can totally say no.
No, no, it's fine.
Okay. I'm only gonna share one, but by nourishing my body routinely, I am energized, vibrant, clear, and breathing deeply so that I can live fully. And so as we kind of were going through, and you were in this process of making these decisions, how did stepping into your physical realm and kind of like embodying this mantra, because and did this come true for you? Like, was nourishing your body a way that allowed you to live and work fully?
Yeah, it's interesting because part of that mantra, when you helped draw that together for me, was viscerally physical. I had had a almost deathly allergic reaction to an antibiotic that I never had before, and I literally it damaged my lungs. So like being able to breathe again was huge. But then there's a very much mental component to that,
Mhm.
and all of the other elements, in that when you are going through the motion because you think it is required of you by whomever, you don't take care of yourself at a fundamental level, and you do become depleted. So there's the physical pairing, at least in that moment with me, with the very psychological, and I would wager spiritual battle of saying, it doesn't matter what whomever says, my family, society says about me. I am miserable.
Right.
I'm not embodying myself. And that therefore, because I'm dragging myself through the motions, I'm not nourishing myself. I'm not taking care of myself. And that's
Mm,
it's like digging the hole further for me to get anywhere that I felt like I could be authentically alive, that I could be breathing like, wow, like this is life. Like, yes, we're gonna have our ups and downs, but you're much more resilient and able to like buffer through anything that life throws at you,
yeah.
if on a day-to-day basis you're living from a place where you prioritize yourself, take care of yourself, and make the decisions that are right for you, and not what you've told should be right for you.
Yeah. So it sounds like that. I love getting to ask these questions because normally I don't get to really do this. I'm just like, did it work? Um, so it sounds like having that safe space in the session, when you and I were working together privately over the phone, because we're in different states, that you were able to come together, kind of process some of the bigger things that were going on, in addition to, I don't want to call them like typical accountability, because like you said, there's fundamental reasons why we're not sometimes taking care of ourselves, but also just these more concrete, actionable, staying accountable to, no, I have to talk to Sara, so let me make sure that I am talking to her about sleep, or that I am, that I am moving my body. Like, was that kind of what it was like for you?
Well, for sure, it's good to be accountable to someone. And also, I think it's vastly important in life that when you not always, but many times when you're working through something deep, there is great value in having a true objective party work with you, because even though
Mm,
you may have really supportive family or friends, sometimes they're too close to see some of the things and or present it to you in a way that's palatable. Because I've
mhm.
certainly had moments where I'm like, wow, this friend said that to me like 2 years ago, and like my ego couldn't take it. I was like, no. But
Exactly.
sometimes that's just, you can take it from an objective party. Um, so yeah, that accountability, that fresh voice was important. And I think, nothing ever happens in the timeline that we want it to in our head.
Yeah.
And to me, and this is not my analogy, it is one that I picked up from an author that I love. Like, you can only connect the dots in retrospect.
Yeah.
And so the question I think I didn't answer from a moment ago is, are you embodying what we had built into that mantra? I am now. Um,
Yeah.
and it's very joyful and great. Um, but you can't necessarily see that work as it's happening. But that's the point, is that you have to work and keep moving forward. And one day you will look back and be like, well, damn, like it was happening all along and I couldn't see it.
See it.
Um,
Yes. Mm,
and so like in our case, um, with working together, at least that initial time, I made a hugely radical decision to leave my job, and I didn't have a plan. I just knew, so depleted, I can't even make a decision. And
well, you did have a plan, but you're right. It was
a
more of a leap,
plan.
right? Yeah,
It was not a traditional plan that it would normally be
exactly.
like accepting of.
Right.
um, and you don't get to that point without having the validation and the work to say, it is okay. Um, this is different, but that's the point. You had to make some kind of change.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, for those of you who are watching or listening, that leap was huge, but it didn't necessarily lead to the outcome that I thought. And so I still had more to work through and didn't necessarily get the answer that I wanted in nearly the time frame I wanted. But that's because I had more work to do. So again, it's the patience, the commitment to saying, like, if we work through these really hard things, there are going to be some very uncomfortable times. But in the end, it's going to be worth it. And then when you get to that place that you can look back and say, I've come so far and I didn't even know how fast I came. It's like all of a
Yeah.
sudden everything shifts.
Hmm. So fast forwarding now, like, because you had some incredible growth years. And I remember kind of weaving in and out, of different conversations with you, not really formally working together, but check-ins, and just little love taps, being able to kind of talk back and forth. And you were always it was really a time where you were being shown a lot of things. There was just a lot of symbolism and in my opinion beautiful spirit around you, so that you could really meet the right people that you needed to meet, even though now I think you would say, looking back, it's like, oh yeah, they were there, but you were able to meet the right people. You were able to have some really powerful experiences, but really that shaped you. So kind of fast forward into, we started working together again. And I remember we had the opportunity, which I don't usually have with everybody, of sitting at the table with you having dinner. And there was some questioning, there was some frustration of like, gosh, I made this big leap, why isn't it clear yet? So kind of talk about the last few months, because you did what's called the Live and Lead from the Core program, which has private coaching with me, and also really gets into the embodiment of really going inward into our own inner wisdom. So describe this amazing fast 3 months, because it's been fast.
Yeah, so I guess to contextualize, you're right. Back in 2018, when I made this huge leap, there were some truly serendipitous introductions that initially made me so excited. But then other things occurred that kind of drew me back into the dark night. Like, was I a crazy woman?
Mhm.
And I had I don't know, maybe it was the stubbornness to say, even though I don't know where I'm going professionally, that is, I'm just not willing to settle anymore. I'm just not going to take a job again. And it was agonizing. I mean, I have some side hustles. I'm a yoga teacher. I do some freelance work, but I wasn't willing to just sacrifice and go back to what I was doing for 2 years. That's an agonizingly long time where you start to doubt yourself and worry about who's judging me and all of that. So this led me back to working with Sara when the live and lead from the core came up, because I'm like, I think I need a little boost of help. So that dinner, that conversation was really like, I can't do this for much longer. Like, something has to give and break. And being a yoga teacher, I know how important it is to connect with your inner wisdom. And when you feel like you're cut off from making any type of decision or movement, I think we all feel that in some shape or way. It's devastating.
Yeah.
So we started the program, and one of the things that was interesting to me, Sara has a practice, and I won't give away all the special sauce, but teaching you of how to let your inner wisdom percolate up, like words that will help to drive you, whether it's like for your day or for a longer period. And when we learned this practice, I was mad. I did not like the word that I got at all. I was like, this is wrong. I did this wrong. I got 2 words: to explore. I'm like, what have I been doing for the last 2 years? What am
Exactly.
I
I don't
supposed
like that
to
word.
explore? And to release. And I was like, release what? Like, I released my career. What do I have going on for me? And so I was like, whatever, okay, I'm just gonna go with it. I don't have to like these words. Did the retreat, went into the coaching, just, all right, let me be open. And the weird thing, again, things started happening. I didn't see it in the moment, but
I did.
the summary is that all of a sudden, a random conversation sparked an exploration in me that literally, because I checked the calendar to the date, it was 6 weeks from the date of this conversation that I discovered a master's program, researched it, talked to the professors, attended 4 lectures via Zoom, talked to graduates. I mean, just
Which we
blew
created a
up,
whole plan around,
blew
right?
up this university around, is this a fit for me? Was so energized. And like the last year and a half of me like getting into law school and then being like ho hum about it, all of a sudden I was like, throw that to the curb. That was never a fit. This is the fit. I applied. I got accepted. I accepted the offer. 6 weeks.
Yeah.
6 weeks. It was like the most amazing blur of activity. But it's like once like the stars, the moon, like the sun came in alignment, like I knew. And of course, an objective party like Sara can be like, yeah, I saw that coming, but I was desperate. I was dying on the vine. And now I feel fully alive that if we go back to the mantra, I'm like, yeah, I embody like taking care of myself. I'm making good decisions for me. But when you dig your hole and you cannot see the light out of that hole,
Yeah.
that's why you need someone to help you, because they can see it, but in a timeline that's accelerated from when you can.
Yes. And I love doing that. Like I've always been a dot connector, and so, but the other thing, and I think this is really important, and you and I have talked about this in some of our sessions, there's divine time. And so while in our human brain, we go like, okay, this isn't happening fast enough. This isn't right. Something's wrong. when we can look back and string it all together for ourselves, that we go, oh yeah, this all makes sense. I had to go here and zig before I could go there and zag. And I've always been a dot connector. And so, and I firmly believe in divine timing. And so one of the other things is even I remember in some of the conversations that we had in between us formally working together, seeing some of that, but it wasn't the right time for me to put it into your, right? Like you weren't ready yet. And I didn't have it formulated enough yet to be able to say, oh, hey, just go over here and you'll be just fine. Right. Like it's not serving. We have to follow that beautiful divine time.
It's true. And in the case of my being very resolute about attending this master's program next year, when I made my initial leap with you back in 2018, I met and am now very good friends with one of the professors in the program. And I knew about this program for the last 2 years. And I said to him, I was like, isn't it funny how sometimes you can't see something that's in front of your own face? And then the light shifts, and all of a sudden you're like, what? And I very much do look at all of my experiences over the last 2 years and say, you know what? I wasn't ready a year ago. I wasn't ready 2 years ago. And I needed to go through some of the things that I did. And even some of the things going on in our greater world have all colored why this particular decision at this time makes sense.
Yeah. And so without, again, kind of sharing, because we created another mantra for this time, but the backbone of that mantra was all about slowing down, being able to kind of get silent so that we could kind of stop the stress madness that just all of us do, right? With these most vulnerable pieces in our life. Like you were feeling like, hold on, wait a second, I took this big leap. I felt this felt right. And then what's going on? And so we had to kind of clear that clutter. And again, what happened was, and it happened to be in the live and lead from the core experience, but which was the retreat and group sessions and then private sessions, but it was a safe container for you to continuously check in with, oh yeah, I forgot to slow down. Like, oh yeah, I forgot to get silent. Or, oh yeah, I need to go back to these tools that Sara taught me to like get into my own inner wisdom, get into my own core. And when you did that, all of the dust settles, all of the fog can dissipate. And it was the right and final time for you to go, this is it. This is actually what I want to do. I mean, because I think for a while there was a really concern, like maybe I'm supposed to settle. Maybe I'm supposed to settle, and maybe this whole dream thing was kind of there. And it's like, no, it's just we just needed a safe container to keep bringing ourselves back and nourishing you. Well, thank you so much. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but is there anything else that you want to share that we didn't touch on? Or
No, I think the only thing, just to address your last point as part of like conclusion, is that I think as humans we forget that anything is a practice. And so when you do get the courage to change or make a big change, that doesn't mean that you don't have to still practice on supporting new behaviors and habits around that change. And so, like for me, like I made that leap, but I was still attached to the same old mindsets that were prohibiting me in seeing a new path of moving forward. But then in this second working together through live and lead from the core, like really trusting that I do know the answer, like stop fighting myself on what I'm telling myself is good and right, is like when I finally did that, then it's like, the heavens open up and
it's
the
like,
angels.
ah!
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that I don't still have to practice, and that like a year from now, I could be like, Sara,
Mhm.
something's going on. And it's like, we just have to constantly be reminded, practice your new skills. And
Yeah. Well, because
that's,
in stress, we revert back,
yes,
right? And so I love how you say, oh, wow, now that I'm looking back, yes, I took this big leap, but I was still attached to these old mindsets. And so it was, and it was the decision at the time to, for us to like kind of professionally part ways. And it really, really, again, was divine timing for that. But when it was the right time again, you're like, hold on, I'm seeing these mindsets.
I need some help again.
Yeah. Like, wait a second, hold on. It's beautiful.
Yes.
I have absolutely adored working with you, and thank you for sharing your experience, because I think this is something that stories heal, and being able it heals you, it heals me, it heals those that are listening, and it's empowering. And you just have such an incredible story.
Well,
So thank
thank
you for
you.
sharing.
I love you, and I appreciate you for being along for my roller coaster ride of my joy, my journey.
Love it. I love roller coaster rides. Not really, but but I love them with my people. I just don't love real roller coaster rides. Okay, well, thank you so much, Cinzia, for joining us.
You're welcome.
Again, this is Dr. Sara Smith. This is just a new interview series that I want to be doing for you all. And if you are someone who would like to try a session with me, I have a Discover Your Joy $97 session. This is a deep discount for you to be able to work with me. You can schedule that on www.drsarasmith.com. You'll see a little book an appointment and look for the Discover Your Joy session. And once you apply for that and schedule that session, then I'll send an intake form so that we really can streamline your time. And when we get on the phone together, we will come away with some great actionable symbolic steps for healing. So thank you so much, and everybody have a beautiful rest of your day.
Bye.